The alarm goes off at 6:47 a.m., not the gentle, rising chime kind. This one is a harsh, digital blare that feels like a shove. For a second, there's just the blue-black dark of a San Francisco apartment high up on the 27th floor. Then a hand slaps the phone screen into silence. This is Alex's hand, and the first thing his eyes see isn't his sleeping partner, Sarah, or the faint outline of the Golden Gate Bridge out the window. It's the glow of his other phone, the work phone, already buzzing on the nightstand, a Slack notification, a calendar alert, a push notification from a finance app, red numbers glowing. The smell is last night's cold coffee, and the sterile scent of an air purifier running on high. He doesn't get up. He just lies there for those 3 stolen minutes, feeling his heart beat a little too fast against his ribs. That's not excitement. It's a low-grade dread, a fizzy anxiety already bubbling in his stomach. The day hasn't started, but he's already behind. His brain, without permission, starts its morning triage. The 9 a.m. client call he's not ready for. The engineer's angry Slack thread from midnight he hasn't opened. The Q2 strategy deck, due tomorrow, still just a title slide. He can feel the weight of it all, like a soft, heavy blanket pinning him to the mattress. He finally swings his feet onto the floor. The hardwood is cool. The city outside his window is just starting to light up, a grid of tiny yellow squares in the fog. But he doesn't look at it. He looks at the sleep tracker on his wrist. It glows a soft, accusing blue. 4 hours, 12 minutes. Poor recovery. High resting heart rate. He swipes it away. That's a problem for a future version of himself. The shower is what he calls his triage shower. The hot water hits his shoulders, but his mind is miles away, in conference rooms and Zoom grids. He's rehearsing apologies, drafting replies in his head, prioritizing which fire to put out first. He's clean by the time he turns the water off, but he doesn't feel refreshed. He feels like he's already done half a day's work, and all he's managed to do is get wet. The kitchen is a monument to efficiency. A $400 blender for the morning smoothie he's too nauseous to drink. A subscription box of focus-enhancing mushroom coffee. He skips both, pouring yesterday's cold brew into a travel mug. The bitter, acidic taste is just a fuel, nothing more. On the BART train into the city, he's packed shoulder to shoulder with people who look just like him. Same puffy vests, same AirPods, same 1,000-yard stare reflected in the dark train windows. Everyone is looking at a screen. Alex's screen shows 47 unread emails, 22 Slack threads, and his calendar, a rainbow-colored nightmare of back-to-back blocks from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. There's one called Deep Work, Project Titan, from 2 to 4 p.m. He gets to his desk in a sleek, he almost laughs. That block has been moved, shortened, or hijacked for the last 11 days straight. Quiet Soma office. The office is hybrid, which means it's mostly empty, but somehow louder. The sound is the frantic tap-tap-tap of keyboards, the low hum of video calls bleeding from headphones. Someone is always saying, "Can you see my screen?" It's a sound that sets his teeth on edge. He opens his laptop. He's going to start with the strategy deck. He needs to, but a little notification pops up in the corner. James, CEO, is typing. His breath catches. He waits. The typing stops. Nothing comes. But the spell is broken. The focus is gone. He opens Slack. He'll just clear the easy ones first. 2 hours vanish. He's answered 73 messages. He's sent 17, let me circle back on that. And 5, can you jump on a quick call? He's reacted with thumbs-ups and fire emojis. He's been responsive. He's been so responsive. But if you asked him what he's actually done, what he's built. He'd just stare at you. The document for Project Titan is still open. The cursor blinks on a blank page, right under the bullet point that says, Vision Statement. Lunch is a sad salad eaten at his desk while watching a tutorial on maximizing your productivity stack. The lettuce tastes like plastic. The screen light makes his eyes ache. The 2 p.m. deep work block arrives. He takes a deep breath. He closes his tabs. This is it. And right on cue, his phone vibrates. It's a direct message from his boss, Maya. Alex, urgent. The client saw the news about our API change. They're panicking. Can you hop on a patch-up call? 2:15? He looks at the blank document. He looks at Maya's message. He feels a hot flush of something. Resentment? Fear? Climb his neck. He types back. Absolutely. Jumping on now. The call lasts an hour and 45 minutes. It's mostly reassuring someone that the world isn't ending. By the end, his head is pounding. His deep work block is a red deleted line on his calendar. The day stumbles on, a series of reactive tasks. At 6:30 p.m., Maya pings him again. You're a rock star for today. Really saved us. Let's touch base first thing on the Q2 deck. Yeah? Need those big ideas. He stares at that message. Rock star. The word feels hollow. He didn't save anything. He just stopped something from getting worse. He didn't create. He contained. The headache is now a full-throated drumbeat behind his eyes. The office is empty. The cleaners are vacuuming somewhere, the sound a distant roar. On the dark train ride home, he scrolls through LinkedIn. It's a barrage of polished positivity. Hustle harder than everyone. I wake up at 4 a.m. and coded this whole app before breakfast. Your output is your worth. His own reflection in the window looks pale, tired. He feels a deep, confusing ache. He's doing everything the playbook says. He's optimized. He's responsive. He's always on. So why does he feel so weak? He stumbles back into his apartment. Sarah is on the couch, watching TV. Rough day? She asks, her voice soft. Just the usual. He mumbles, dropping his bag. He can't even summarize it. It was just a blur of urgent nothingness. He orders overpriced sushi because he's too tired to even think about cooking. He eats it in front of his laptop, half watching a show, half scrolling through work emails again, just in case. The fish tastes like nothing. At 11 p.m., he's in bed, next to Sarah, who's already asleep. The blue light of his phone washes over his face. He's checking tomorrow's calendar. It's worse. More meetings, more syncs. Another deep work block he knows won't survive. He puts the phone down. The room is silent, except for Sarah's breathing. And in that quiet, a question rises up in his mind, sharp and uncomfortable. It's not from a podcast or a book. It's his own voice, tired and honest. What if I'm doing this all wrong? What if my obsession with being productive is actually making me weak? He thinks about the rockstar comment. He thinks about the blank strategy doc. He thinks about the 73 Slacks answered and the 0 real problems solved. The system he's in rewards him for his frantic activity. It praises his responsiveness. It gives him little dopamine hits for every notification cleared. But it never asks for what's deep inside him. It never asks for his quiet, focused thought. It just wants his reacting, his fixing, his putting out fires. And he's so good at it, he's starting to forget he can do anything else. He's starting to believe the lie that his value is his speed, that his worth is his availability, that an empty inbox is a greater achievement than a full original idea. He falls asleep with that question echoing. The city lights twinkle outside. Countless other windows where other people are probably staring at their own screens, feeling the same quiet ache. Tomorrow the alarm will blare again at 6:47. He'll go through the same motions. But something has cracked open, just a hair, a sliver of doubt in the machine. What if the answer isn't another app, another hack, another podcast about grinding harder? What if the real secret, the powerful ancient way to actually build something meaningful, was something else entirely? What if it was something so simple, so counter to everything he's been taught, that the very system he's in had to ban it? He drifts off, not knowing the answer. But for the first time in a long time, he's asked a real question. And that's where every single good story begins. Alex's week didn't get better. It just got faster. That quiet question from the dark, what if I'm doing this all wrong, got drowned out by the morning's fresh flood of pings. But it didn't completely disappear. It was more like a pebble in his shoe, a tiny, persistent irritation he felt with every step. It was Thursday, 10:14 a.m., during his third Zoom call of the day. He was on camera, his focused listener face perfectly tuned, nodding slightly, a thoughtful hand on his chin. Inside, he was composing a reply to an engineering ticket, while also reading a news article about quarterly projections, all while half listening to a marketing director talk about Q3 funnel metrics. His brain felt like a browser with 47 tabs open, and 3 of them were playing audio. His phone, face up next to his laptop, buzzed. A text from Sarah, a photo of their dog, Barney, looking goofy with a toy in his mouth. A simple, human moment. He felt a sudden, powerful ache to be on the couch with them, to feel the sun through the window, to hear Barney's tail thumping on the floor. The feeling was so sharp it was like a physical pain in his chest. And what did he do? He swiped the notification away. He didn't even react with a heart. He just dismissed it, to go back to the marketing funnel. That's when the pebble in his shoe became a stone. A cold, hard realization settled in his stomach. I just swiped away my actual life to pay attention to a graph I've already seen. Why? The call ended. The little windows of faces vanished, replaced by his own tired reflection in the black screen. He knew why. It was the unspoken rule, the invisible fuel that powered his entire office, his entire industry. Your responsiveness is your reputation. Being fast was being reliable. Being available was being committed. Saying, "I'll get right back to you," was more valued than saying, "Let me think about that and give you a real answer tomorrow." He opened Slack. His status was set to active. It always was. Turning it to away or in a meeting felt like putting up a do not disturb sign in a busy hospital ER. It felt irresponsible, almost arrogant. What if someone needed him? What if a client was on fire? His identity, he realized with a start, wasn't tied to being a good product manager or a creative thinker, or even a reliable teammate. It was tied to being a fast reactor, a human fire extinguisher, and the scariest part, he was proud of it. His 7-minute average response time was a secret badge of honor. Let's rewind a few months. Alex's annual review. He'd walked in feeling confident. He had the data. His ticket resolution time was down 18%. His customer satisfaction scores for responsiveness were through the roof. He'd single-handedly managed the frantic server patch 22 crisis, answering messages at 2 a.m. He was ready for his promotion to senior director. His boss, Maya, had smiled warmly. She'd praised his unwavering dedication and his team-first attitude. And then she'd said the words that had confused him for weeks. The one area for growth, Alex, is around strategic vision. We need you to lift your head up from the day-to-day and help paint the picture of where we are going. We need those big, innovative ideas from you. Have you ever felt like you're just a puppet on a string? Every ping, every buzz, every notification pulls you in a different direction. One string jerks your hand to the keyboard for a Slack message. Another snaps your head toward a last-minute meeting invite. You're constantly moving, dancing a frantic, jittery dance. It looks busy. It looks productive. But you're not actually going anywhere. You're just reacting. This was Alex. After a big meeting, his boss mentioned strategic vision, and Alex just scoffed. Strategic vision? He was too busy putting out fires to even think about charting a new course. He was rewarded for his frantic activity, for being the company's best firefighter. But the promotions, the real recognition, went to the quiet architects, the ones designing buildings that didn't catch fire in the first place. He was trapped, not by a bad boss, but by his own belief that being busy equaled being important. He was a hamster on a wheel, running faster and faster, convinced the speed itself was the goal. The villain here isn't laziness. Alex was exhausted. The real villain is the false belief that in our hyper-connected world, your greatest strength is your reaction time. But being the fastest to respond just makes you a really good sensor, a quick switch. It doesn't make you a creator, a builder, or a deep thinker. One afternoon, Alex saw the alternative. He walked over to the engineering department to find his colleague, Chloe. She was quiet, sharp, and always seemed so incredibly calm. He found her at her desk, staring intently at lines of code, AirPods in, completely absorbed. Her phone was on her desk, but it was face down. He waved, but she didn't see him. He said her name, but she didn't hear him. Finally, he gently tapped her on the shoulder. She jumped, pulling out an AirPod. "Oh, Alex, hey, sorry, I was in the zone." He asked her a quick question about a project. She smiled and said, "I'm in the middle of a really fragile build right now. Can I slack you the answer in about an hour? I promise I will." An hour? To Alex, who lived in a world of instant replies, an hour felt like an eternity. But he just nodded and walked away. As he glanced back, he saw Chloe had already put her AirPod back in and flipped her phone face down again. She was gone, back into her zone. And Alex knew with a pang of jealousy that in that hour she would build something real. She was creating, not just reacting. The final piece of the puzzle clicked into place at 5:31 p.m. While Alex was mentally preparing for the work that would follow him home, Chloe stood up, packed her bag, and just left. No last-minute frantic pings, no apologetic messages. She was just done for the day. Alex sat there, staring at his own screen full of unfinished tasks, feeling a confusing mix of resentment and awe. How did she get away with that? The answer was simple. She didn't get away with anything. She delivered, consistently. Her reputation wasn't for being fast, it was for being solid. Her value came from the depth and impact of her work, not the speed of her responses. This was the turning point for Alex. It wasn't a dramatic explosion. It was a quiet click in his mind. What if he tried that? Maybe not leaving at 5:31, that felt too radical. But what about the phone? What if, for just 1 hour, he turned it face down and let the messages pile up? The thought was terrifying. What if there was an emergency? What if he missed something crucial? But then he remembered Chloe's empty desk and her promise. She had kept it, sending a detailed, helpful answer right when she said she would. The world hadn't ended. Her projects weren't on fire. In fact, her projects were some of the most successful in the company. The lie he'd believed, that the entire operation depended on his constant, frantic attention, began to crack. Maybe the system was more resilient than he thought. Maybe his most important work wasn't happening in the frantic moments between tasks, but in the deep, quiet spaces he never allowed himself to have. He looked at his own phone, which lit up with another email. He imagined the simple act of turning it over, hiding the screen. Outside his window, the San Francisco evening was turning gold. He could see a ferry moving slowly across the bay, a tiny, peaceful scene. He took a deep breath. For the first time he felt like he could almost smell the salt air right through the stale office coffee and electronics. And he made a choice. He reached out and turned his phone face down. This story isn't just about Alex. It's about a choice we all face. Are we going to be the puppet, constantly reacting to the next pull on our strings? Or are we going to be the architect, building something that lasts? The power to choose isn't in some grand gesture. It starts with a small, quiet act of rebellion. It starts with turning your phone face down. What does that zone look like for you? Where do you do your best, most meaningful work? We've all been Alex, trapped on that hamster wheel. But we can all be Chloe, too. We can choose to disconnect in order to connect more deeply with our work, and ultimately, with ourselves. It's not about working less. It's about working with more focus, more intention. It's about trading the illusion of productivity for the reality of progress. Think about it. What is one small step you can take today to reclaim your focus? Maybe it's a 30-minute block with no notifications. Maybe it's leaving your phone in another room while you tackle a big task. That fear you feel, that's the feeling of breaking the addiction to busy work. Lean into it, because on the other side of that fear is the quiet, focused space where your best work is waiting for you. Thanks for watching. If this story resonated with you, give this video a like and subscribe for more content on how to work smarter, not just harder. See you in the next one. He returned to the strategy doc. He made himself read what he'd written from the beginning. Slowly, an idea began to form. A real one. Not a reaction to a problem, but an idea about the future. He typed a bullet point, then another. They were clumsy, but they connected. 10:15. The third buzz. By now the anxiety had mutated. It was still there, a background hum, but it was tired. The initial panic had worn itself out. When the phone vibrated this time, he flinched, but he didn't stop typing. He was in the middle of a thought, leveraging user cohorts to predict. He kept going. He finished the sentence. He let the buzz fade into the background noise of the office. It was just a sound now, a bee in the garden. It wasn't a command. And that's when the shift happened. The space between the buzz and his reaction, that tiny half-second gap, got a little wider. In that gap, he found a sliver of choice. And he chose the document. For the next 30 minutes, he didn't write a masterpiece, but he built a skeleton. He had an outline, 3 core pillars, 5 key objectives. He stole data from an old report and dropped it in. He found a customer quote and used it as an opener. The document was no longer a blank, terrifying void. It had bones, it had structure, it was something. At 10:58, he was polishing the title. He was fully absorbed. The phone could have buzzed itself onto the floor, and he might not have noticed. He was in what athletes call flow, and what he called not feeling like garbage. 11 Mars. Time was up. He felt a strange reluctance. He wanted to keep going, but a promise was a promise. He slowly, carefully, reached for the phone. His heart was pounding again, but for a different reason now. Dread. He was about to see the damage, the angry messages, the missed crises. He flipped it over. The screen lit up. 3 Slack notifications, 1 email. He tapped the screen, his mouth dry. Slack 1, 9:34. From a junior designer. Hey Alex, when you get a sec. No rush. Can you glance at these mock-ups for the login flow? Slack 2, 9:47. From Maya, his boss. Alex, can you send me the Q2 vendor numbers when you are free? The Veshex. Slack 3, 10:15. From the engineering channel. A meme of a cat trying to fit into a small box. 3 people had reacted with laughing emojis. The email, 10:50. A company-wide newsletter about the new recycling program. He read them twice, then a third time. That was it. No fires, no panic, no CEO, just normal stuff. The urgent double tap was his boss asking for some numbers she didn't need for hours. The sky had not fallen. The company had not collapsed. The relief was so powerful it felt like laughter and tears at the same time. But under the relief was something else. A slow, burning anger. He had just put himself through an hour of internal hell, a mini heart attack of anxiety, for this. For a meme and a question about vendor numbers? The emergency was all in his head. The leash was attached to a post he could walk away from. He answered the messages in order. To the designer, will do, this afternoon. To Maya, sent to your inbox. In the engineering channel, he even reacted to the meme with a grinning face. It took him 4 minutes. Then he looked back at the strategy document. It was 7 pages long. It was rough, full of placeholders marked TK. But it was 7 pages more than he'd had for a month. He had created something from nothing. He hadn't just moved information around. He had built. He leaned back in his chair. The sun was bright on the floor now. The tight band around his chest was gone. He felt light and incredibly tired, the kind of tired you feel after doing something hard and real. This was the microscopic victory. It wasn't a promotion. It wasn't a finished product. It was a reclaimed inch of his own mind. He had proven to himself that he could feel the tug and not jump. That the world, his little professional world, was sturdy enough to handle 90 minutes of Alex not being on call. Most people, he realized, will never get to this point. The discomfort of that first buzz, that first itch of anxiety, is too much. They'll check the phone. They'll clear the notification. They'll get the tiny hit of relief, the dopamine of problem handled. And they'll never know what's on the other side of that resistance. They'll stay in the comfortable, frantic loop forever. He had stepped out of the loop, just for 90 minutes. But once you see what's outside, you can't unsee it. The quiet space where actual thought lives. The calm where real work gets done. He saved the document. He closed his laptop for a real lunch break. As he walked to the burrito place, his feet on the warm sidewalk, he felt a strange new sensation. It wasn't happiness exactly. It was agency. A tiny, fragile sense that he was piloting the ship, not just frantically bailing water. The battle wasn't won. It had just begun. He knew tomorrow the strings would tug again, harder maybe. He knew the old habits were still there, strong as ever. But he had a blueprint now. He had felt the crack in the trap, and he knew something fundamental. This is where 95% of people quit, right at the edge of the discomfort. You, right now, are in the 5%. And that changes everything. The question was no longer if he could do it again. The question was, what would he build with the quiet he'd just found? The victory of the DNS block was sweet. But it was a Friday. Mondays, Alex had learned over his career, have a special kind of gravity. They suck you back into the whirlpool. So, on Monday morning, sitting with his bitter cold brew on the BART train, He knew one block of focus wasn't enough. It was a nice trick, but the system was bigger, stronger, and waiting for him. If he was going to build a new way of working, he needed rules. Not just one rule, a daily practice, a quiet rebellion. It was just a glimpse, a what-if, as fragile as a soap bubble. But it was his, and for someone running as fast as Alex was, even the thought of stopping feels like a revolution. The question was no longer, what if I'm doing this wrong? The question now was much more dangerous and much more exciting. What am I willing to give up to get my own mind back? The answer wouldn't be easy. It would feel at first like losing, like falling behind. But as he packed his own bag, a tiny spark of curiosity had replaced a little bit of the dread. Tomorrow, he decided, he would run a small experiment, a test of the puppet's strings. He had no idea how hard it would be, or that the first battle wouldn't be with his inbox, but with the very chemistry of his own brain. The plan felt stupidly simple, terrifying, but simple. Friday morning, Alex sat at his kitchen island, the San Francisco fog pressing against the window like a gray blanket. He opened his calendar. With a click, he blocked 9:30 to 11:15 a.m. He titled it, DNS, Do Not Schedule. It looked so small, so fragile, a single white rectangle in a sea of rainbow-colored meetings. The rule was clear. For these 90 minutes, he would work on one thing, and one thing only. The Project Titan strategy deck. And he would let 3 messages go unanswered. 3. That was the scariest part. He wouldn't just ignore them. He would see them arrive, hear the buzz, feel the pull, and he would do nothing. He called it strategic neglect. It sounded smarter than, I'm going to be irresponsible. At 9:28 a.m., sitting at his desk, he did the preparatory rituals. He closed all his browser tabs, except one. He opened the document. The cursor blinked. He put his personal phone in his backpack and zipped it shut. He took his work phone, his main source of incoming fire, and placed it face down on the far left corner of his desk. He could still feel its vibration through the wood. That was okay. He would feel it, and he would practice not reaching for it. 9:30, go time. For the first 4 minutes, it was peaceful. He typed to a sentence. The future of our platform is not just connection, but meaningful. He deleted it. Too fluffy. He started again. 9:34, the first buzz. It shot through the desk and up into his wrist. A sharp, electric thrum. His head snapped to the left. His eyes locked onto the black silent back of the phone. His fingers twitched. Every instinct, trained over thousands of days, screamed at him to flip it over. What if it's Maya? What if the client is exploding? What if it's the CEO? His heart did a little skip thump. The curiosity was a physical itch starting between his shoulder blades. He took a deep breath. He looked back at his screen. The sentence was still there, half finished. Meaningful. He couldn't remember what he was trying to say. The buzz had wiped his mental slate clean. This was the internal battle. It wasn't dramatic. It was a quiet, frantic argument in a gray, foggy room in his mind. One voice, panicked and high-pitched. Just check it. It'll take 2 seconds. You can't just ignore people. It's unprofessional. Everything could be falling apart right now. The other voice, the new one, was calmer but weaker. You promised yourself 90 minutes. It's been 4. The world survived without you for 8 hours last night. It can survive for 86 more minutes. His hand actually lifted off the mouse, hovered in the air, halfway to the phone. He pulled it back. He clenched his fist and put it in his lap. He was sweating. This felt absurd. It felt like holding his breath underwater on a dare. It was just a phone. But it wasn't. It was a leash, and he was choosing, for the first time he could remember, to feel its tug and not move. He made himself type, meaningful reduction of friction. Not great, but it was words. They existed. 9:47, the second buzz. This one was a double, buzz buzz, a double tap. That was often a direct message, probably urgent. The itch exploded. His mind raced through possibilities. A server down, a security breach. His imagination painted vivid, catastrophic pictures. He actually stood up. He paced 2 steps behind his chair. The phone sat there, a silent black monolith, holding secrets. The pressure in his chest was real, a tight band around his ribs. This wasn't productivity. This felt like torture. He sat back down. He stared at the document. He couldn't think about vision. All he could think about was that phone. He opened a new blank document, just to have somewhere to dump the chaos in his head. He started typing, fast. Who is it? What do they need? Is it the API? Is James mad? Did we lose the deal? This is crazy. Why am I doing this? This is so stupid. I'm going to look so bad. What if it asks Sarah? What if something happened? No, it acts work it. As always work. Just check it, you coward. Just check it. He typed until his fingers hurt. It was a purge of pure anxiety. After a full minute of frantic typing, he stopped. He read it back. It looked like the ramblings of a paranoid person. This was what was inside his head. This was the strategic thinking his boss wanted. A swirling panic about missing messages. He deleted the entire rant. 1 breath, 2. The office around him came back into focus. Someone laughed near the coffee machine. The sun had broken through the fog outside, painting a bright, warm rectangle on the floor. Life was just going on. This story is just beginning, and Alex's journey to reclaim his focus is far from over. If this battle feels familiar, if you've ever felt like a puppet on the strings of your own notifications, hit that subscribe button. We're going to explore how to cut those strings, one by one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. He started simple, with what he called the daily war plan. It wasn't about winning huge battles. It was about winning the tiny invisible skirmishes for his own attention, every single day. Rule 1. Start with defeat. This sounded depressing, but it became his secret weapon. Every morning at 8:45 a.m. before he opened his email, he'd open a small physical notebook, the kind with actual paper. He'd write the date. Then he'd de-write, what is the one thing most likely to hijack my focus today? He'd make himself name it, not vaguely but specifically. The anxious client, Mark, will likely call around 11 a.m. panicking about the timeline. Or, Maya will probably slack me for an urgent brainstorm that isn't urgent. Then, next to it, he'd write his pre-decided response. I will listen calmly and schedule a dedicated time to address his concerns. Or, I will ask for the topic and propose a 15-minute sync at 3 p.m. instead. It took 2 minutes, but it was like seeing the storm on the radar before it hit. When the client called at 11:07, frantic, Alex didn't feel hijacked. He felt prepared. He followed his script. The storm passed. His focus remained, a little bruised, but intact. Rule 2, the evening audit. At 6 p.m., no matter what, he'd close his laptop. He'd take out the same notebook. He wouldn't write what he did. He'd ask one brutal question. What controlled me today? Some days, the answer was easy. The 2 p.m. all hands. Meeting that went 40 minutes over for no reason. Other days, he had to dig. I checked my phone 7 times while writing the project brief. I was controlled by my own itch for distraction. He didn't judge himself. He just wrote it down. Seeing the words on paper, I was controlled by a pointless meeting, made something click. It shifted the blame from his own weakness to the thing that had stolen his time. The act of naming it took its power away. It was no longer a bad day. It was data. The third rule came from a moment of pure frustration. It was Wednesday, and his inbox was a nightmare of newsletters he'd never read. The future of Web 3. 10 SEO hacks you're missing. Quarterly Compliance Digest, and that's 47. He felt his blood pressure rise just scrolling. That's when he made Rule 3. Embrace the unsubscribe. Every Friday afternoon, as a kind of ritual to end the week, he'd force himself to unsubscribe from 5 things. 5 newsletters, 5 promotional lists, 5 low-value Slack channels. The first week, it felt like cleaning out a clogged drain. The satisfying click of unsubscribe. The shh sound of leaving a Slack channel. He could almost feel the mental noise level dropping, pixel by pixel. The inflow of distractions slowed to a trickle. But the most powerful rule was the simplest. Rule 4, the physical anchor. Alex went to a little beach near his apartment one Sunday. He picked up a smooth gray stone about the size of a peach pit. It was cool and heavy in his palm. He brought it to work. He placed it right between his keyboard and his monitor. The rule was, when he felt the overwhelming pull to check, to react, to fall into the frantic loop, he would pick up the stone. He would hold its weight. He would feel its cool, solid, real texture. He would focus on that feeling, the slight grit, the perfect smoothness, for 3 full breaths. In a world of buzzing, blinking, weightless digital ghosts, the stone was undeniably real. It was an anchor to the physical world. One day, during a tense debate in a Zoom call, he found himself clutching it under the desk. Its solidity kept him from typing an angry, reactive message. The stone didn't have an opinion. It just was. And for a moment, he could just be, too. The 5th rule was the scariest because it involved other people. Rule 5. The pre-mortem. Before he started any big task, like the revised Project Titan deck, he'd ask a crazy question. If this fails completely, what will likely be the cause? He'd force himself to write down 3 realistic reasons. For the deck, he wrote, 1, I'll try to make it perfect and never finish. 2, I'll let urgent tasks eat all my time. 3, I won't get early feedback and will go in the wrong direction. This killed the vague, swirling anxiety and replaced it with a concrete defense plan. He set a hard deadline for a ugly first draft. He defended his DNS blocks fiercely. He booked a 30-minute check-in with Chloe from Data to gut-check his numbers. The pre-mortem didn't prevent failure, but it prevented the kind of panic-driven, wasted effort that came from fear. This was the daily war, not fought with grand gestures, but with these small, almost silly disciplines. And it wasn't a straight line of progress. Oh no, there was the terrible Thursday. He had a perfect day planned. 3 DNS blocks. He was going to be a focus machine. At 10 a.m., his phone rang. It was his dad. His mom had taken a minor fall. She was okay, but at the hospital for checks. The world dropped out from under him. For the rest of the day, his rules evaporated. He was refreshing his email mindlessly. He was in meetings but heard nothing. He was completely controlled by worry. That evening, in his audit, he simply wrote, I was controlled by fear for my family. And that's okay. The lesson wasn't to never get derailed. The lesson was to know the difference between a real emergency and a manufactured one. To give yourself grace when the real world intervenes.